You are welcome to African Tales Stories channel. Without wasting your time, let's get to the watch. The sun hung low in the sky, casting golden streaks across the marketplace of Nenzaramu, a kingdom where trade was as sacred as the spirits of the land. The scent of roasted plantains and spiced fish filled the air, mixing with the distant rhythm of talking drums. Traders shouted their prices. Baskets of woven cloth swayed on women's heads, and little children weaved through the crowd, their laughter ringing like bells. Among them was Kato, a young man of 22, tall and broad-shouldered, with the kind of face that carried both innocence and quiet strength. His mother, Mama Nyarai, was one of the most respected traders in Nzaramu, known for her vast wealth and a tongue as sharp as a knife. "Work hard, my son," she always told him. "We do not beg for riches, we take them." Kato believed her. He had spent his life helping in her warehouse, organizing spices and dried fish, never questioning how their trade flourished while others struggled. To him, his mother was a woman of wisdom, a warrior in the world of merchants. But then, the whispers began. "They say the spirit merchants walk among us," old Babu, the blind storyteller, muttered one evening by the fire. "They sell things not meant for mortal hands, things that bring wealth and death in the same breath." Kato shuddered but laughed it off. Stories. That's all they were. Until the night everything changed. It was late. The marketplace had long emptied, save for a few flickering lanterns swaying in the night breeze. Kato was locking up the warehouse when he heard it. A sound beneath his feet. Tap, tap, tap. Frowning, he crouched, pressing his ear to the wooden floorboards. The sound came again like footsteps. From below, his heart pounded. A storeroom wasn't supposed to have anything beneath it. Slowly he ran his fingers along the floor, and then, click, his hand found something unusual. A groove, a handle. Kato's breath caught in his throat. He pulled. The floor shifted, a trapdoor, a door that should not exist. Kato stared into the darkness below, cold air brushing against his face like unseen fingers. A hidden chamber, beneath his mother's warehouse? The hairs on his arms rose. His mind screamed, "Close it, forget it, walk away." But something inside him, a whisper of curiosity, of fear, dared him forward. With a deep breath, he grabbed a lantern and stepped down. The air was damp, thick with the scent of something sickly sweet. The flickering light revealed wooden crates stacked against the walls, marked with strange symbols he had never seen before. And then he saw them. At first, they looked like bags of spices, but when he lifted one, the fabric felt different. Wrong. He untied the top, and a dark, powdery substance spilled onto his fingers. Not grain, not herbs, something else, something dangerous. A sickening realization twisted his stomach. This was not his mother's spice trade. This was something else. Then, the footsteps. Soft, measured. Coming from above. Someone was coming. Kato's chest tightened. He had to leave, had to get out before. "Kato." The voice was smooth, steady, too steady. Kato turned slowly, his heart hammering against his ribs. His mother stood at the top of the steps, bathed in the dim lantern glow. Her expression was unreadable, her eyes dark pools reflecting the flickering light. For the first time in his life, he felt something cold slither down his spine. Fear. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The silence between them was thicker than the darkness surrounding them. Kato found his voice first. "What is this place?" His voice was hoarse, unsteady. Mama Nyarai descended the steps, slow and graceful, like a lioness approaching prey. She stopped beside him and ran her fingers over the wooden crates, as if choosing her words carefully. "This is our true trade, my son. Kato's stomach twisted. This isn't spices. His mother exhaled softly. No. A chill settled over him. He had spent his whole life believing his mother was an honest merchant, that their wealth came from hard work. But this was something else, something darker. He stepped back. You lied to me. Her eyes flashed, but her voice remained calm. I never lied, Kato. I simply never told you the whole story. He shook his head. This is what the spirit merchants deal in, isn't it? She studied him for a long moment, then she smiled, a slow, knowing smile. The spirit merchants are just stories, my son. Kato's blood ran cold. She didn't deny it. She reached out, brushing a hand over his shoulder. Everything I have built is for you, Kato. Everything I have done is to protect you. His breath hitched. Protect him? From what? From whom? The walls of his world, his safe, simple world, were crumbling, and standing before him was the one person he had always trusted. Now, he wasn't sure if she was protecting him or trapping him. The marketplace of Nzaramu was alive with its usual vibrancy, drummers beating their talking drums, women balancing baskets of fresh mangoes on their heads, and traders shouting their wares. But to Kato, the colors seemed dimmer, the sounds duller, the air thicker. He could still feel the cold dampness of the hidden tunnel beneath their warehouse, the strange symbols on the sacks etched into his mind. His mother's voice echoed inside his head. Everything I do for you, my son. Could that be true? Could she truly be doing something so dangerous? For him? Kato sat outside their shop, watching the customers haggle over rolls of fabric. His mother stood nearby, smiling, her hands moving with grace as she measured cloth. No one would ever guess that beneath this shop, beneath her calm, elegant exterior, lay a secret powerful enough to destroy lives. That evening, as the sun sank into the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of orange and deep blue, Kato followed his mother into the warehouse. He needed answers. Inside, the scent of dried herbs and spices filled the air, masking the more pungent aroma from the hidden chamber below. Mama Nyarai turned to face him, her dark eyes unreadable. You shouldn't have gone down there, she said softly. Kato clenched his fists. Why, Mama? Why hide this from me? What are you really trading? Mama Nyarai sighed, walking over to one of the wooden shelves where she traced a finger over the jars of cinnamon and cloves. I have always told you, Kato, the world is not kind to the weak. I don't understand. She turned, her voice suddenly sharp. You think I built this business by selling harmless spices? Do you think we would have survived by being ordinary traders? No, my son. Power feeds on power. If we do not control this trade, others will, and they will not be as kind. Kato felt his stomach tighten. But this, it destroys people. I saw Zuri's father today. He is wasting away because of this. Did you know that? His mother's expression didn't change. Some men destroy themselves, Kato. I did not put the pipe in his hands. I did not force him to smoke it. He chose his own ruin. Kato took a step back, feeling as though the ground beneath him was crumbling. No, this isn't right. Mama Nyarai took a step closer, her gaze piercing. And what will you do about it, my son? Go to the king? Tell the guards? What do you think will happen to us then? To you? Kato felt the weight of her words settle on his chest. He had always thought of his mother as strong, wise, protective. But now he saw something else, something colder, sharper. A woman who would do anything to keep her power. That night, Kato found himself walking to the weaver's hut, where Zuri sat by the fire, her small hands working the threads of a deep blue fabric. She looked up when she saw him, her dark eyes filled with concern. Kato, What is wrong? He sat beside her, staring into the flickering flames. It's my mother. I found out the truth. Zuri put down her weaving and turned to him. You mean about the trade? The spirit merchants? Kato's heart pounded. You knew? Zuri nodded slowly. Everyone whispers about it, but no one dares say it out loud. Kato ran a hand through his hair, frustration boiling in his chest. I don't know what to do, Zuri. She says she does it for me. That without it, we would have nothing. Zuri reached for his hand, her touch warm and grounding. But what will you become if you stay in it? Do you want to live in the shadows, knowing people suffer because of what you sell? Kato swallowed hard. She won't let me leave. Zuri's voice was barely a whisper. Then we must run. The words hung between them, heavy and terrifying. Leave Nzaramu? Abandon his mother? Could he really do it? Kato looked around the small hut. It was nothing like his mother's grand home, but it was filled with love. The air smelled of fresh cotton, of home-cooked meals. Zuri's father lay in the corner, his breathing shallow, his skin pale and thin. This was what his mother's empire did. Kato took a deep breath and met Zuri's gaze. Tomorrow night. We leave tomorrow night. Zuri nodded, squeezing his hand, but deep in his heart, Kato felt a sliver of dread. His mother was not a woman to be deceived. If she suspected even the smallest betrayal, she would stop at nothing to bring him back, even if it meant breaking him forever. The night was thick with silence. Nzaramu's market, which bustled with traders by day, now lay asleep under the gaze of the full moon. Shadows stretched across the narrow alleyways, where whispers of the wind curled through wooden stalls. The scent of roasted maize lingered in the air, but beneath it, Kato could smell something else. The damp earth, the cold steel of fear pressing against his ribs. Zuri stood beside him, her fingers trembling in his grip. Are you sure about this? She whispered, her breath warm against his cheek. Kato nodded, though his heart pounded like a war drum in his chest. We have to go now, before she realizes. They moved quickly, stepping through the hidden passage at the edge of the market. The path led them toward the river, blessed where a small boat awaited, hidden behind thick reeds. Kato had bribed an old fisherman to row them across before dawn. If they reached the other side, they could disappear forever. But as they stepped into the clearing, torches flared to life. The darkness exploded with firelight. Kato's stomach twisted. They were waiting for him. A ring of men emerged from the shadows, their eyes sharp like hunting dogs. At their center, standing tall and unshaken, was Mama Nyirai. Her robes shimmered in the moonlight, deep purple like the night itself. Her expression was unreadable, her lips curling into something between a smile and a sneer. You disappoint me, my son, she said softly, as if she were scolding a child who had stolen a piece of fruit. Running? Like a common thief? Kato stepped in front of Zuri, his muscles tightening. I am not a thief, he said through clenched teeth. I just don't want to be part of this. This poison you spread. Mama Nyirai sighed, shaking her head. Poison? No, Kato. I sell power. I sell survival. You think the nobles in the palace do not indulge? You think the men who sit on golden thrones are innocent? She took a step forward, her presence suffocating. We are not criminals, my son. We are kings of the night. Kato clenched his fists. You never gave me a choice. Mama Nirai's smile faded. No, because you are my blood, and blood does not betray. She raised a hand, and her men stepped forward, their spears gleaming in the firelight. You leave tonight. You are no longer my son. You become my enemy. Zuri gasped, her grip on Kato tightening. Kato, we have to go, she pleaded. Please, let's run. But Kato knew better. His mother was never without a plan. If they ran, her men would cut them down before they reached the river. He had to think. Fast, he turned to Mama Nyarai, forcing himself to stand tall. Let Zuri go. She has nothing to do with this. Mama Nyarai studied him for a long moment, her eyes dark pools of calculation. Then she laughed softly. Love, she murmured. It makes men foolish, weak. She stepped closer, lifting Kato's chin with a single finger. Do you know why I have never loved anyone, my son? Kato swallowed hard but refused to look away. Because you're afraid, he said. Afraid to be human. A flicker of something flashed in Mama Nyarai's eyes, but it was gone as quickly as it came. She turned sharply and snapped her fingers. Two of her men grabbed Zuri. No! Kato lunged forward, but a spear was pressed against his chest. He froze, his breath shallow. Mama Nyarai's voice was smooth, like silk wrapping around a blade. You want a choice, my son? Here it is. She gestured toward Zuri, whose eyes shimmered with unshed tears. You can stay, take your rightful place beside me, and she will live. Or, she tilted her head, you leave, and she dies tonight. Kato's world spun. His heart screamed, his mind clawing for an escape. This was her game. This was how she had always won, by making people choose between two evils. He looked at Zuri. Her lips trembled, but her eyes held firm. Run, she mouthed silently. Kato took a shaky breath. Then, he did the only thing his mother didn't expect. He dropped to his knees. Mama Nyarai raised an eyebrow. Begging? She mused. Not like you. Kato bowed his head. No, mother, he said, his voice steady. I surrender. A murmur spread through the gathered men. Zuri's eyes widened in horror. Mama Nyarai smirked, triumphant. A wise choice, my son. Kato clenched his fists against the cold ground. Not yet. Not yet. As his mother turned to signal her men, Kato moved. Fast. With a sudden burst, he grabbed the spear from the guard's hands and struck the nearest man in the ribs. Chaos erupted. Zuri screamed as she yanked herself free. Kato twisted, knocking another man to the ground. Run, Zuri, he shouted. She hesitated for a second too long. Mama Nyarai, her face twisted with rage, grabbed a dagger from her belt. Kato's blood turned to ice. She was going to kill her. With every ounce of strength, Kato hurled himself forward. Too late. The blade sliced through the night and buried itself in Kato's side. Pain exploded through his body. He gasped, his legs buckling beneath him. His vision blurred, but he saw Zuri running, disappearing into the trees. She was safe. That was all that mattered. Mama Nyarai knelt beside him, her breath warm against his ear. Foolish boy, she whispered. You would throw away everything for love? Kato coughed, tasting blood. He managed a weak smile. At least I still have a heart, he whispered back. The last thing he saw before darkness swallowed him was the firelight flickering in his mother's cold, unreadable eyes. Thank you so much for watching this intense and gripping story on African Tale Stories. Your support means everything to you if you enjoyed it. Please give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments section. And hey, we'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comment section below. Don't forget to share these stories so that more people can watch and learn. Until next time, stay tuned for more captivating African Tale Stories by E. Guys,